Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the season finale of the Book of Boba Fett in the Name of Honor. And again, we have an episode that is really good, but it just proved that they should have done some kind of Mando connection season, because this did show, unfortunately, that the Boba Fett portions of this Boba Fett show are the kind of weaker aspects of it. Because if you look at most of the stuff that I'm going to go through with this, the strongest aspects are Mando, Grogu, and the stuff that it kind of deals with them as they're dealing with everything going on within this war. And that's not a good thing that you want to have happen in a show titled about Boba Fett. And again, I don't hate Boba Fett's character, but the way they've written him and Shand in this, I can barely call them characters, because they just say things that are going on. You kind of get a little bit of a feeling of what they do. Boba Fett, we learned that he likes animals and doesn't really want to hurt them, that he had a connection with the Tusken Raiders, and with Shand, it's such a waste of the actress and the character as well, because she usually just vomits plot stuff that we've already seen and can really figure out. Most of her stuff throughout, even this kind of beginning, the beginning portion of, detailing and getting us into the war kind of proper, she's just telling us what's already happened that we've seen if we've been watching the show, and have also seen in the recaps. It's very fucking odd and bizarre. If it was some kind of complex, multi-layered kind of thing where you're trying to, simplify things, sure, okay, that's an alright kind of thing to do. But you've already shown us, and now you're just beating us over the head to tell us what's kind of going on, even though we've literally just seen it actually start to happen. So, we start off and we see that, an X-Wing pops up, and we see that it's got R2-D2 in it, and that it's delivering Grogu, because Grogu made his choice to go with the Mando. And we see, of course, he's got the little shirt. The mechanic lady's like, "Hey, what are you doing? Your name's Grogu?" Because R2's talking about that, yeah, I gotta get back to Luke Skywalker, man. It's just chill. The baby needs food and shit. Grogu, crazy name. And then we just see Grogu pretty much eating and get stuff going throughout. So then we see that Boba and his team are pretty much in the blown up remnants of Whip's Place Sanctuary and are trying to figure out what to do. And Boba Fett's why don't we just go back to my extremely fortified place and wait out the siege? And his mod squad, the lead chick's no, we need to protect the people and everything. I'm they'd be going for fucking Fett, man. It would actually draw people away from the town. Yeah, we're gonna fight for the city. And I'm I kinda get that, but it's kinda fucking stupid to, make your last stand in a burnt out place when you have a perfectly good place that's got, I don't know, blast doors, fucking places that you get around, throughout the whole kind of palace and everything. You know the terrain better. You can make your enemy kind of come to you. I don't know why they would even be going with any other kind of people. And we see that it actually really kind of fucks Fett up more than he kind of needs to. I get what they're trying to attempt to showcase, that Fett's fighting for the people, trying to help them and everything, but it's a stupid decision that makes no sense and really doesn't endear him or anything at all, because they're yeah, they're gonna there's gonna be damage to the town and stuff. And I'm thinking, after we've gone through this episode, if Fett had taken the fight at his palace, there would have been vastly less damage to what would be going on right now. And then we see that he puts everybody in different kind of positions to pretty much try and see what's going on with the Pikes. And it's pretty much the Mod Squad, the Gamorrean Guards, Chrysanthemum, Of course, Din's with them and everything, but he doesn't know about Grogu yet. Cad Bane's pretty much talking. With the Pikes, we see that the mayor's with them. It's like, oh, okay. And then they're like, yeah, we killed the Tuskens and made it look like the gang. It's like, it doesn't fucking matter. Like, Cad Bane's like, yeah, I'll use that to my advantage. And then goes out to pretty much try and negotiate terms with Fett. Well, pretty much try and, like, pretty much goad Fett into a position where he'd be able to take him out. But Fett, of course, listens to the Council of Shan and decides not to do that. Kind of goes back in. And then we pretty much almost get like a Godfather baptism of fire, where all the people that said that they were going to be remaining neutral was like, fuck that shit, start attacking the Mod Squad. The Gamorrean guards get fucking shat on here. Like, I even wonder why this was filmed. They essentially just pushed them off a cliff. And it kind of sucks. I mean, granted, the whole ordeal of them getting pushed off the cliff kind of sucks, but it's like, you wasted time doing this? Like, granted, I didn't want them to die, but their action scene was fucking atrocious. Like, people came up, poked sticks at them until they got to the edge and they fell off. Like, the action scenes in these parts are some of the worst that I've seen, because it's just, I don't know what the fuck was going, like, on with their thought process, because it was not interesting to see whatsoever. Now, the Mod Squad has the kind of least amount of that shit going down, because they're kind of, like, penned in and they're having, like, shootouts and stuff like that, so theirs is the least offensive. But the Gamorrean guards, it's just like, It's like, what? Like, they don't really even get that much into it. They don't have much cinematography or choreography, what's going on. It's just, I'm like, alright, I mean, there wasn't much to those characters anyway, but they definitely deserve better than that. And then you get motherfuckers, you get the Trandoshan's bum rushing a gladiatorial Wookiee with, like, swords and shit. Granted, a cool action scene you have to kind of sometimes work back from. But you have to make it make sense. Most people don't go into a fist fight with a fucking pissed off Wookiee. Or a Wookiee that's pretty much in a high state of agitation. You don't fucking do that. You would think these one of these families of the criminal underworld of Mos Espa would, I don't know, fucking know that? Especially since it ripped some dude's fucking arm off just because he was in a pissed off mood at a bar. And it was just not really interesting to watch. They, like, came up and were like, and the Wookiee's like, fuck you, man, and just, like, tossing and shit. I'm just like, god damn it. Pet's pretty much trying to figure out what's going on. He pretty much sends Shand out to do what she needs to do to, like, she's like, hey, if I get to the Pike leadership, I can pretty much get this out quick. So she's able to, like, help the Mod Squad out, and they thank her. She's like, oh, manners. Alright. And then she fucking disappears for, like, a good chunk of the episode. Like, nothing. Like, no, like, I'm like, alright, fine, cool, do your shit. Well, then we see that Fett starts talking with Din, which is the best kind, like, some really good kind of dialogue stuff going on, mainly because of Din. It just goes to show that they've got more of a hone-in on the Mando's character than Boba Fett or anybody else in this show. Like, it's really kind of odd. Like, they got more of a hone-in on Luke Skywalker, Ahsoka, even Cad Bane. You get more stuff on it. It's like, yeah, this is just a job that I'm doing. I don't know what the fuck you're doing, Fett, but whatever, do your do. It's so fucking odd. But they're talking about honor and what they're trying to do. Pretty much we see that the Pikes are coming in. They're trying to figure out their ways out, but Din's like, hey, it's his greed. He's like, Boba Fett tried to talk him into leaving while he could, but he's like, nope, I gave you my word. I'm doing my shit. I'm going to do this. So we either have him try and come at us, or we go out and attack him head on. And of course, the Major Domo dude's like, hey, I can go and give terms and everything. I know how to negotiate and all that. He's like, come over here. and he writes down his stuff, and he pretty much like goes out. We get him. I was like, all right, fuck it. What's the terms? He's like, nothing. He's going to pretty much grow flowers out of your dead bodies in the desert sand. And he's like, shit. And then he starts running away. And then we see that Fett and Din come out blasting like badasses. And this is the start of the good fight scenes. Why do I say that? Because Boba Fett starts killing people with his fucking knees. And what I mean by that is he starts shooting people with gun things in his knees, man. I wasn't expecting that. I'm like, okay. And the thing is, they're doing pretty good. Beskar armor, good. The stuff that they got, all right. They're like using a lot. Whenever I talk about action scenes are not just there for mindless like ass kickery. Granted, you can have those action scenes and they can be well done and well choreographed and well executed. However, those best kind of action scenes also detail character information without actually having to say it, but actually showing it. We see Din utilizing a lot of his gear. We see Boba Fett shooting people with his knees and utilizing his gear and everything. We see them going back and forth and taking out these assholes of this syndicate who are supposed to be like the best around, and they can't fucking like, I mean, granted, given enough time and overwhelming numbers, they can pretty much take on these Mandos, but they fucking give it good. But we see that Din is pretty much getting hit and is in a pretty bad position, but so is also Boba Fett. And then who comes in? The people of Freetown, as they've got pretty much like a bigger kind of like, I'd call it an APC, but it's not really. It's more like a kind of beefed up SUV land speeder with a gun attached to it. And we see the bartender dudes like blasting at him. They kind of like get out and they start helping out and everything. Fett kind of goes back and says, hey, what's kind of going on? It's like, yeah, Cad Bane, this dude kind of gunned down Cobb Vanth in cold blood. It's like, he died? I'm like, oh, all right. That's kind of weird, but go with you. And we see that Cad Bane pretty much, he'll pop back in later, but we see that they're doing all the stuff that they're trying to do, but we see that they scatter out and it's like, what's going on? And then they send in these two giant kind of droids that are shielded, kind of like the droidekas from the prequel era, except like they're walking fucking anti-artillery slash anti-air kind of like looking motherfuckers. It's like, this is a problem. So they kind of split them up, and the thing is, their energy weapons aren't going through, their kinetic shit's not going through. Din tries to use the Darksaber to kind of like get through, but it's like, shit. So Fett's like, hey, listen, go, I'm gonna get some reinforcements. It's like, alright, cool, bro. And then he's kind of like walking around, but then we see that the mechanic lady pops back in, and he's like, drive, we got a fucking droid on our ass, like this shit. And he's like, oh yeah, I just wanted to show you that this little dude popped up. He's like, Grogu. And he's like, this was a really kind of cute moment, because all the stuff that I pretty much loved in here was like the Mando and Grogu, and he's like, and he like force jumps his way and hugs him, and it was adorable and cute and well executed and well done, even though it was in the middle of a battle scene. But it's because Grogu chose him and cares for him, and so does Din. He's like, we need to get you guys someplace safe because shit's getting booked. And the thing is, he doesn't think that Grogu is weak. Granted, there are some things that Grogu can't do because of like his size and his stature, but yet he also has the Force to balance it out. It's just any kind of wound that Din gets, yeah, it kind of hurts and everything. But if you can tell, if Grogu gets hurt or anything, that would hurt him more. And that's usually, and I could get that as it's going through. And Grogu, you can see him thinking through his mind what he can do and kind of help, because he doesn't really kind of, you can tell he doesn't really like that Din's kind of like sidelining him, and him trying to kind of like figure out what he needs to do and everything. So they're pretty much getting ready to kind of like do some shit and everything and start taking out the droid. However, we see that Boba Fett kind of pops back in with a Rancor, riding the Rancor, and I'm like, oh, okay, at least we're doing that. And starts kind of like fighting the droid. And I was like, that's actually pretty well done. I like the CGI that they were able to do with the droid and the Rancor as they're fighting. The Rancor does get some stuff blasted off and does get hurt. I'm like, damn, Rancor, man, you're alright. But he's able to kind of like get through and start like fucking through with the with the droid. But he gets into a position where he gets compromised, where he's almost pretty much like killed with it. And Grogu pops up and utilizes the Force to kind of like grab this kind of leg joint thing, which worked out pretty well. And I'm like, yeah, of course he likes balls and all those kinds of things. And he was able to kind of get that kind of one thing to tactically kind of like put the droid at a disadvantage. Before, of course, the Rancor pops up like, eat my ass, motherfucker. And then Shaq cacks it. And it's like, ah! He's like, whoa! And like, rips it and does some shit. It's like, yep. That kind of like, he pushed its shit in, man. He fucking did what he needed to do. And, it was pretty sweet. It's like, alright, cool. And Boba Fett kind of walks on. And we see that the people of Freetown are pretty much going through it. We see that Chrysanthemum's with them and everything. People are helping them out. We get some interesting kind of weird... We get like one of the eyeball mod squad did this kind of cool flippy kind of thing to do a shot. But it's like, okay, you could have done lots of other stuff, but whatever. They're kind of trying to figure out what's going on. The lead chick's like, we can't fall back any farther because we won't have any cover, so we got to make our stand here. And she gets the bartender's gun. This other person decides to provide cover as they're like taking out people and trying to fuck with the droid. But then, of course, Boba Fett comes in with the Rancor and is like, eat my ass, motherfucker. And it's like, oh shit! And fights it and is able to kind of like beat the shit out of it. But we see that Cad Bane pops up like, this is bullshit! And pretty much scares the Rancor away. It's like, ah shit! So then we pretty much get a showdown as Cad Bane's like, listen, you've just gotten soft in your old age. And he's like, yeah, we kind of all do. And he's like, alright then, consider this, they get into like a gunfight thing, but Boba Fett gets kind of taken down first. And he's like, hey, just consider this my final lesson, as he's about to shoot him in the head. But then he uses his stick, kind of beats him a little bit, and then stabs him, and kills Cad Bane. It's really not that interesting to kind of watch. And I don't say that to be mean or degrade their efforts. It's just, I know that these characters have history from the Clone Wars, and this is just not executed well to that thing. I'm like, huh, that kind of sucks as a kind of end to Cad Bane right there. And the thing is, it can work in certain instances. I just didn't think it was executed completely right. It wasn't completely half-assed or completely botched it, but I'm just like, okay, alright, moving on. So, everything's pretty much done. We see that the Rancor is like running around because rightly everything's been shooting at it and kind of pissing it off throughout the whole episode. So yeah, it's going kind of nuts. Din tries to go and kind of like deal with it as he tells Grogu to kind of like stay back. And the thing is, he's like, yeah, I don't really have a plan for this. And the thing's pretty much trying to eat him because we have seen the Rancor eating people throughout this episode. And he like blasts it in the mouth with the fire. It's like, ah, shit. And it's like coming towards Din, but Grogu walks up and uses the Force to kind of put him to sleep. And then walks up to it and pets it and like, yes, good use of the Force, Grogu. And then he snuggles up to him and naps with him because he's tired and has had a full day and has been utilizing the Force a lot in a myriad of different ways. I was just like, yeah, alright, cool. We also see that the Pike, the mayor's like, this is kind of shitty, you're kind of like blowing everything up. This isn't kind of what we agreed on. And we see the other kind of heads of the families like, what the fuck's going on here, man? And then Fennec Shan just like pops up and does Master Assassin stuff and kills everybody in there. That was actually pretty good and actually showcased why she's a Master Assassin. It's like, yeah, alright, we're done. And we see that everybody has now won. It's like, yay, okay, cool. We see that Boba Fett's walking through the street. Everybody's like, hey, yeah, giving him melons and stuff. He gives it to Chrysanthemum. One of the Mod Squad dudes is like, hey, why don't we get melons and shit? And the thing is, like, Fennec's like, hey, why don't you utilize the back screens like that? Because somebody else is usually just like, alright, is that Cad Bane or whatnot? And trying to figure out kind of what's going on with it. And that's pretty much then we pan out. We see that Din is flying in his starfighter with Grogu in the back. And we see Grogu's like got his little ball because he gave the ball back to Grogu when he told him to kind of like hide in a place with the mechanic lady. And he's like banging on the thing. And he's like, no, I'm not doing it. No, He's like, alright, fine. And then he does the speed boost thing, and Grogu's like, yeah! And I'm like, I love them. It's like, I don't hate Boba Fett and everything, but that's, you put the best amount of effort of acting and content and writing and like action scenes with the Mando, which wouldn't be a problem if it was Mando's show. See, these last 3 episodes have been more like the Mando's kind of stuff, because that's the shit that they really put a lot of good effort and energy into. You can tell. It's like, okay, because the Boba Fett stuff is like the basic kind of shit. It's like, alright, cool. I mean, you kind of get a feel for Boba Fett's character, but there's really not much there that they're like not expanding upon. It's like, it's very kind of simplistic. It's like, oh, okay, and that's not a bad thing. You don't have to go completely complex or whatnot, but you need to kind of get into a character, understand their motivations, and make it interesting. Because you can give a character interesting motivations, but if it's not presented and executed well enough, it could just be as boring like this. I'm like, I'm more interested in this kind of stuff and seeing what Grogu will choose, what Mando will choose, what everything will be going on with that. And there is an after-credit scene as we see that the person utilizing Boba Fett's back-to-tank is Cobb Vanth, and that we got the mod dude, doctor guy, to pretty much help heal him and everything. So we'll kind of see how that kind of works out. So, overall, it's a very strange season. This is one of the only other ones besides WandaVision where I can be like, you can literally skip the first 4 episodes and just watch the final 3 and barely miss anything. Like, even Boba Fett getting a Rancor out of nowhere to ride, even though I would be like, yes, it was explained in like one of the 4 previous episodes, it is an ass pull that I would have been fine with, strangely enough, if I didn't know how he fucking got it. Which I've never really said before, because I generally don't like ass pulls. Alright, like, it's really weird that I could be like, hey, you can kind of skip that stuff. I mean, granted, you only see Boba Fett get out, muck around with the Tusken Raiders, get a Rancor, get a Wookiee friend, and get this Mod Squad people and everything, but, like, you still get the information you need from, like, those last 3 episodes. It's very odd. It's like they weren't completely sold on even the concept of the Boba Fett thing themselves, to where they halvesied put in shit that could have been, like, utilized as either a bridge season for Mando, or just put into Mando Season 3. I've never really encountered a show like this before. It's strange. It's not completely horrendous. It's not like I would say, never watch this thing, because there's fucking amazing shit in it. It's just most of the amazing shit doesn't deal with the actual concept and the character that is the whole point of the show. And that's... I'm even trying to, like, rack my brain to even understand if I've ever really gotten into a situation like that before, where like, a lot of the other characters overshadow the complete reason for the show itself. That does not happen very often. So yeah, I really liked everything detailing with Grogu and the Mando, and pretty much, like, that we're okay, that we're going to be having Cobb Vanth back, that he's going to be dealing with repercussions. Cad Bane's death felt just really fucking weird. And even though I'm not that much into his character or deeply into his lore, I even still believe that he deserved better than that. And Boba Fett's still the weakest link in his own show, and I don't like that. I don't like saying it, I don't like expounding upon it, because it just gets tiresome and repetitive to keep doing that. So that's pretty much what I'll leave that with there. I don't know how they would do a season 2. I mean, granted, if they are able to pull a story and actually focus and center it on Boba Fett's character and do shit with Boba Fett's character, it can be done. But I would not really recommend it, since most of the good stuff was other characters, and you could just do that in Mando or any kind of other kind of, like, a Tatooine spin-off show, just focusing on Tatooine. I don't know. we'll have to kind of see how that goes and what Disney's thoughts are and what they try and do with this. Ugh. So I would still be like, yeah, the good stuff that I saw with those characters and their development and their stories was amazing, but I could understand why you'd be like, I was kind of bored with these kind of parts. Ugh. So those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.